We're back once again with Kerry Hayes and Butch Robbins. And Butch, anytime I talk with any of the folks around that grew up in this part of the country, we have to always get a Reno and Smiley story out of them. Have you got any good Reno and Smiley stories you could pass along to us here?
I don't know where to get in my humorous mode or my emotional mode with them two guys. I met those two fellows. I was still living in North Carolina at that point, and they were playing a package show in Spartanburg, South Carolina, with Mother Maybelle Carter, Bill Anderson, Flatt and Scruggs, and there was one other local country act on the bill. But I met Don Reno and Red Smiley and made acquaintance with Ronnie Reno. At that point, just met him. And within about 6 months, we had moved up to this area near Roanoke, Virginia, and I was able to see him every day on TV, and through the course of that, I went up there and, got to play on their TV show a little bit and became friends with him. I was in my mid-teens at that point, and I was in my early teens. I hadn't even reached the midpoint there. But they started talking with me. I already had aspirations of being a professional musician, and they guided me. They taught me a lot. I wanted to play for Bill Monroe back then. I wanted to learn how to play in the footsteps of the Earl Scruggs and the Rudy Lyles and the Don Renos and everybody else, and I got a lot of real good, stable business advice from those guys on how to conduct myself as a professional musician to try to last in the business rather than coming in working for a couple of years and going to the house with a lot of nice memories. I'll tell you one story. One time is one of the biggest disappointments that I got out of my life, and later on it was revealed to me why it had happened. Red Smiley was in he didn't have a band that changed over a lot, but occasionally after Don Reno left, he did change banjo players and mandolin players and fiddle players and things of this nature. And he had an opening come one time along about the time I got out of high school. And I had known the guy. I'd played with him up here at El Tenedor Skating Rink. I used to sit in with sets and play the same way I played with Carter Stanley there. I was able to play that way with Red Smiley and some of the other guys. But I went to Red and asked him for a job, and he wouldn't hire me, and it hurt my feelings so bad. I went home and I must have cried for a week because he wouldn't hire me. But I had been developing ever since his first Bluegrass Festival up here when Bill Monroe had heard me play. My dad had developed a relationship with Monroe, and it was unknown to me that my dad kept communication going. And I didn't know that I was going to be hired right out of high school to go to work for the Bluegrass Boys. Red Smiley did, and he didn't tell me that. And he knew in April of that year when I went and applied for that job that in June I would be offered a job that I'd waited for 5 years to get.
Right.
And he wouldn't hire me, and he told my dad that he didn't think I would quit when it come time to go. And I heard Jim Eanes tell this story about Alan Shelton one time. It used to be all Alan Shelton could play was Cumberland Gap. He'd play it for you 15 times a day. It was going to be his instrumental. But when Alan had been offered a job with Jim and Jesse, after a while, it's my understanding that Jim Eanes literally had to fire him to get him to leave to take that job, which elevated him up.
Right.
It was another stepping stone because there was that allegiance that Alan had for Jim, and
right.
he wouldn't quit to take what was a better job,
right.
or at that stage of the game, because Jim wasn't even traveling regionally at that point. I think he was just working around Martinsville or somewhere in that area. But I think I fell into the same thing. It broke my heart that Red Smiley wouldn't hire me, and he later told my dad that he didn't hire me because he knew I was going to get what I really wanted, less than 4 months down the road.
Right.
And sure enough, I was working part-time job as in a dry cleaner and a laundry over there, and Monroe called me up and said, meet me at the Clarkston Hotel on Thursday night. We're going to Peru, Indiana, and play on Friday night, and in Toronto, Canada, and play on Saturday night, and all of this. So I got in a little bit of a whirlwind there a week after I graduated from high school in 1967.